super fun, and all about artisan cheese and more to melt your peaceful heart and toast your peaceful life. Coming to you from the Appalachian Mountains of southwestern Virginia, this is the Peaceful Heart FarmCast.
Hey, this is Scott Hall from Peaceful Heart Farm, and you are listening to the Peaceful Heart FarmCast.
Hello, everybody. Melanie Hall here. Hope you are doing very, very well. The conversation today and every day revolves around the value of tradition, traditional homestead living, traditional raw milk products, and artisan cheese. Topics discussed here are designed to create new perspectives and possibilities for how you might add the taste of tradition to your life. There is so much going on with spring births on the homestead, and abandoned lamb was the immediate task to take care of today. A quick trip to town to get supplies, and now I'm late getting to this podcast. That's what it's all about on the homestead. I have so much to share with you today, and most of it is so much fun. Most of it. I want to take a minute and say welcome to all the new listeners. Welcome back to you veteran homestead-loving regulars that are stopping by the FarmCast for every episode. I appreciate you all so, so much. I'm so excited to share with you what's going on at the homestead this week. And as I said, there is a lot of it, and it all relates to spring births. Before I get to that abandoned lamb, let's start with the garden and the birthing of new plants. So if you're new to gardening, perhaps you're not familiar with the term spring garden, summer garden, and fall garden. Spring is a time of year to plant crops that thrive in cool weather. Some can thrive in the heat, like maybe potatoes, but most spring garden plants require cool temperatures. Things like lettuce and spinach, they will simply give up and go to seed if it gets too hot, and they get really bitter. Other things like root crops, they won't grow in the heat. They just stall, and there's nothing to do for it but try again in the fall when the weather cools off again. This spring, we are planting two kinds of peas, snap peas and shelling peas. Shelling peas are those green peas that you buy frozen or canned in the grocery store, and snap peas are best for salads and such. They are eaten pod and all, though they can be shelled as well. But the pods are sweet and crisp, and they are fabulous in a salad or in a stir fry. Now, I'm not going to plant potatoes this spring, although Scott did dig up the potatoes that we had left in the ground over the winter. They were just starting to sprout and grow again. They would have grown more potatoes, but really, we should have had them out of the ground a week or so ago before they sprouted. And fortunately, there are not tons of them. We will be able to eat them before they get soft because they sprouted and I broke the sprouts off of them. So I'll need to eat those in the next, couple, 3 weeks. In the normal course of planting, I would have planted some of them for a new crop, but I have enough potatoes and will forego them for this spring, perhaps in the fall. I have yellow, red, and white onion sets to plant. Onions make bulbs according to the amount of light they need. Did you know that? There are short season, mid-season, and long season varieties, and it has to do with short amounts of light, a medium amount of light, and long amounts of light. Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and other northern states can grow those long season varieties. During the height of summer, the hours of daylight are significantly higher than we get in southern Virginia. And farther south from us, only the short season varieties will go, because the farther south you get, the more equal the day and night hours become. While far, far in the northern states, like Alaska, they have sunlight for nearly 24 hours at the height of summer, up at right around June 21st. And of course, it's dark for nearly 24 hours in the winter also around the 21st of December. It's a strange place, Alaska. It's wonderful. Everyone should go there at least once in their life. I was there twice. Once was near the spring equinox, and the days and nights were fairly equal. But the second time I was there in July, just past the summer solstice. The sun was still up at midnight. It dipped below the horizon for maybe about 3 hours, but it was still like there was a glow on the horizon, and then daylight began to really show up once again. This also happened when I was in Germany. I was there in August, and it was daylight past 11 p.m., and the sun was back up long before I got up in the morning. So Germany is has a northern latitude as well. So that's the story of onions. The short light, medium light, long light. And the rest of the garden will get planted in May. And that's going to be green beans, herbs, and Crowder peas. The 500 strawberry roots are all planted and looking great. Leaves are visible on almost all of them. The beds look fantastic. Scott did a great job there. That bank of strawberries will also have 4 sections of culinary herbs. I already have a good stand of thyme and oregano that I'm going to transplant in there. And inside, I have started more rosemary, as it didn't do so well last year, and I just let it go over the winter, and it can survive the winter, but it needs protection, and it did so poorly that I just decided to start over this year. I didn't put any protection on it. And today I just got some garden sage seeds, and that's going to fill in that 4th section in between the strawberries. Now, the blueberries and blackberries are starting to leaf out. The blueberries will bloom soon, and we will have berries around the 1st or 2nd week of June. And then the blackberries are going to be ready about mid-July. All right, on to the cows. Last time I talked with you, we had 1 calf. We had Princess, and now we have 3. Rosie, our New Jersey heifer, gave birth to Princess. She has a little tiara on her forehead. If you go over to the Facebook page, you can see pictures of her. And then Cloud gave birth to Winston. And finally, Claire gave birth to a yet unnamed bull calf. No one has had any trouble so far, knock on wood. And Butter and Violet have a bit of time to go before giving birth, late May and early June, respectively. Now to the fun part of the cow story. Rosie, though she is Princess is her first calf. She was giving about 2.5 gallons of milk per day. And we were estimating in the beginning, because Princess was getting her share, and so when we milked her, we didn't get absolutely everything. So we guessed about how much that Princess was drinking, and we were getting about 1.5 gallons in the beginning, and Princess was getting about 1 gallon a day. Well, it didn't take long, and we were getting, instead of 1.5 gallons a day, we were getting 1 gallon a day. And then a few days later, 1/2 gallon or even less. And Princess was getting pretty much all of the milk, like 2.5 gallons of milk she's drinking. And at this point, close to 2.5. At this point, we would normally separate mama and baby and just control the amount of milk the baby is getting. So calves need about 1 gallon or so of milk to grow strongly. Certainly not 2 gallons, but they will drink everything they can if you let them. So take a beef cow, for instance. Those cows are never going to get more than 1 gallon or so a day, because that is all mama is going to make. But the dairy cows make lots and lots of milk, and the calves simply don't need that much. So what were we to do? We came up with a very good plan. During this time, when the milk volume we were getting was diminishing rapidly, Cloud had given birth, and we cannot milk Cloud anymore. She had last year, something spooked her, and she began kicking the milk inflations off at first, and then she began kicking more. I mean, really kicking hard, and Scott got quite a few bruises and even a really badly sprained thumb from her kicking, and we just had to stop milking her. And we thought we might try again this year if perhaps she had calmed down a bit, but no luck there. We had her walking into the stanchion before she gave birth. We bring all the cows up, put them into the stanchion, give them a little bit of snack so they get used to putting their head in and getting that little treat. And then they'll stand there while they get milked. So they all get this training. And it just makes it easy to work with them for just about any vet treatment and, of course, for milking. Anyway, she got startled again by something, I don't even know what, and she started kicking at Scott, who was standing beside her, and we weren't even trying to touch her udders. We weren't even doing anything. So that answered that question. Cloud would not be milked this year either. Now, this is also a dilemma on a homestead. Every animal needs to have a purpose. Her purpose was to have a calf every year and to be milked. You're just not rich on the homestead, right? So now half of her purpose was limited, and that means she had become more of a cost than benefit. And even though we love all of our milk cows, we simply cannot afford to have any of them as pets. Uh, that they must cover their own expenses at the very least. And of course, we really need them to provide some income. Otherwise, we're using our precious time to maintain a cow that is not giving much in return. And our time is valuable as well. So this year she got a reprieve. We figured out how she could pull her own weight. She could become a nurse cow. Separating a calf from mom is normally a loud experience for 3 days as the bond is broken there. So and then they just go on. Mom and calf go on like nothing ever happened. However, we separated Princess from Rosie and began grafting her onto Cloud. And Princess was kind of happy with that arrangement. She was getting milk. Rosie was not. She still moos at Princess all the time, and Princess ignores her and has since the second day. So Princess really doesn't care as long as she's getting her food, and she sticks close by Cloud right now. She sticks right by her side, just like it's her mom now. Now, sometimes a cow will easily take on another calf. In fact, we have had issues in the past with calves nursing on any cow in the area. Our Normandy cows are pretty willing to let anyone nurse. And so we bring the cows in to milk them, and it's like, what's going on? How come there's no milk in this cow? Anyway, Cloud was not quite so willing as Claire and Buttercup are in that area, but we were confident she would eventually accept Princess as her own. And so we put Princess in with Cloud and in with Winston. And we had them separate from the rest of the crew already for the exact reason I just described. We didn't want Winston browsing around and finding milk beyond Cloud. The amount of milk that Claire produces is actually quite small and really only enough for her calf. That's another story I'm not going to get into right now. But we definitely didn't want anybody stealing any of Claire's milk. So anyway, each day we bring all three of them up. Princess and Winston and Cloud all come up to the milking shed. And Cloud goes in the stanchion and her head is locked in. And so she's eating her little snack there. And she can still see who's back there nursing. And the first day, she kicked off Princess repeatedly. But Princess is quite resourceful and persistent. She was hungry after all. This was like late in the evening after she'd been separated in the morning, and it didn't take long for her to figure out how to position herself so that Cloud could not reach her with her kicking. On the second day, when she came in, she would get almost right up underneath Cloud with her hind end close up next to Cloud's front legs and then her mouth, of course, back towards the teats, and her body's nearly squished up underneath Cloud's belly. And Cloud's locked in the stanchion, and she can't walk away, which is what happens if you just leave them out in the field. Trying to get them to attach out in the field, not really working that well because Cloud can just walk away. So the first 2 days, Princess was voracious in nursing. I mean, she was hungry because she wasn't getting anything during the day, so she was getting this one big nursing in the evening. And we were relieved, actually, and confident that eventually she would be fine, since she was filling her belly at least once a day. And then the third or fourth day, she didn't really try to persistently kind of nurse. In fact, she was kind of rather disinterested in nursing at all. Now, that told us she was getting at least some nursing in earlier in the day. And as of yesterday, I did not see Cloud even push her away at all. Princess was getting some milk with her persistence in previous days, and now she seems to be nursing pretty much whenever she wants, and that means it's a done deal. Cloud now has 2 calves, and we now have that full 2.5 gallons of milk from Rosie. And yesterday and today's bonus is that Rosie all of a sudden started producing even more milk. just in the last day or two. We believe it is the warmer weather. She now gives us over 3 gallons every day. Now, that is fantastic for a first-year Jersey cow of her size. Remember, she's still quite small in stature. I can't wait to see how Butter does this year. Butter is also a Jersey cow, and we are expecting in excess of 5 gallons a day from her. She's now a seasoned Jersey cow. So Butter is as tall as any of the Normandys. She looked like a mini cow when we first got her, but she's definitely full grown now. I had no idea she was going to get as tall as these other girls. All right, that's it for the cow stories. Now on to the quail. Just a brief tale here. We had 68 eggs in the incubator, as I said, and there were 40 of those eggs that hatched. We lost 3 babies in the first day or so and now have 37 quail babies in the brooder. They are about 10 days old now and have nearly all of their feathers. In about 8 days, they will be fully feathered and strong enough to go out on their own. They'll come out of the brooder and go into the grow-out cages. We will do our semi-annual deep cleaning of all the quail cages just before we turn them into those grow-out cages. The breeder cages also get a deep cleaning during this time. We sterilize and treat the cages for mites. They will all get fresh new sand in which they take baths, and the automatic watering system will be started up again. The automatic waterers don't work well in winter as the lines and the water cups freeze over. So instead, I have to take fresh water out to the birds every day from late fall to late spring. So that's going to go away pretty soon. I love the automatic watering system. So the cycle of birds is in motion, and I'll keep you updated on each new batch of cute little quail chicks. Now, the biggest part of the spring birth story is the lambs. It would have been nice to have a 100% success rate like we achieved last year, the first time ever to have every single lamb born and lived and no issues with moms, all of that. But also we knew it was not likely. It was the first time in 11 years of raising lambs, I think, that we had that happen. Lambs are really delicate animals in the beginning, and that first few days is really important. So the first ewe's lamb was born without a hitch. He is strong and healthy. The second ewe, not so much. We have 4 ewes out there, so now we're up to number 2. She had a big, beautiful boy and a very, very tiny girl. And the girl was born an hour or so later, and we suspect that she was in the birth canal too long, maybe disconnected from the umbilical cord and was oxygen deprived. Just guessing here. She passed within a couple of hours. She was never able to actually stand up. She was just too weak. So as I said, we have 4 ewes that are giving birth this year, and I thought perhaps that would be the only issue. Unfortunately, that was not the case. This story coming up has a better ending, but I had to rush into town to get colostrum for an abandoned lamb. In all of our 11 years of raising sheep and lambs, this was the first abandoned lamb that we had. Well, Lambert was close to being abandoned. That was 2 years ago. He was small and one of a set of triplets. The other 2 were getting all of the milk, and so basically he was more of a failure to thrive than being abandoned. But he just wasn't getting in there, and we ended up bottle feeding him. So anyway, but a real abandonment where today's spring birth was again twins, but the ewe never touched that second lamb. And right after milking this morning, I went out to check on her because I could tell she had given birth. I had looked out the window and I could see the one up and running around. He was already dry, but she was laying down and straining again, so I thought another was on the way, and perhaps she was having an issue as the other was already standing up quite strongly and dried off. So maybe she was having an issue again. I feared a repeat of the previous situation where the lamb was damaged in a long birthing process. But nope, not this time. When I got out there, the lamb was born and actually standing up. She was significantly smaller than her brother, but still quite strong. Now, she was as wet as she could be, but still standing strong. And I could tell that Mom had not licked her at all. She had not cleaned off any of the birthing fluids from her. She had not stimulated her, but that lamb was up and walking around. Now, who knows why it happens, but it does happen. Mom just rejects one of the lambs, usually the second or a third one. And as I said, we have had lots of different issues with lambing, but this was the first time we'd experienced the complete abandoning of a lamb. I tried rubbing some of the birthing fluid that was still on the new one onto the older one. Perhaps I could fool Mom into accepting both as hers, but no luck. She simply ignored the other lamb. What to do? We quickly put all three in a smaller enclosure, and we tied up Mom and put baby girl underneath her and showed her where to nurse. Because if you can get her nursing, and the mother can then begin to recognize her as her own. And while this little girl was really strong, she seemed to have no clue as to how to nurse. Finding the correct location was no issue, but latching on was not going well. And we fiddled with her for about an hour before giving up and deciding that we were just not going to be able to get her to nurse. And even if we did, Mom was going to push her away. So it would have been a long, arduous process trying to train her, trying to train Mom, both of them. It was just too much. So Mom was going to push her away or walk away and leave her behind. She already had done that. When I first arrived, she took her boy and moved away from me. And I brought the girl up to the boy because Mom moved away. And the boys, when they're really small, they're not fast enough and you can walk up to them and pick them up. So I laid the girl and the boy together. And then so Mom comes back up and as I walk away, and she sniffed and licked the boy and completely ignored the girl. And they're laying there together. And then she walked away again with her boy in tow, abandoning the girl lamb. So what happens when a lamb is abandoned? Well, we have to get colostrum into her within 24 hours. If you ladies out there have children, you know what I mean when I say colostrum, or if you have your own homestead, you will know what I'm talking about here. For those of you still considering and learning, colostrum, not milk, is created for about 3 days or so. And in sheep, it contains lots of protein and a higher amount of fat than other species. The fat is important for lambs. And the other really, really important part of colostrum is it contains the antibodies for common ruminant diseases. So lambs, goat kids, and calves can survive without it, but their chances of getting sick and dying due to lack of antibodies to fight the infection is very, very high. So all newly birthed ruminant animals need that colostrum for survival. And on top of that, the ability to absorb those antibodies from the colostrum declines quickly after 24 hours. Therefore, it is imperative that those newborns get that colostrum immediately. And once we made the decision to bottle feed the new lamb, we now needed the supplies. We've never really kept lamb colostrum on hand since we reduced our flock to a half a dozen ewes. When we had a lot more, we kept colostrum on hand. Never had to use it, but we had it on hand. So we picked the best moms from our large flock when we reduced it. And again, we've never had an abandoned lamb. I was aware that this stuff can be hard to come by for lambs, the colostrum, I mean. There's all kinds of calf colostrum, but the lamb stuff is hard to come by. And the calf colostrum will do in a pinch, but the lambs really need the extra fat. That means I had to get on the phone and find some ASAP. And the closest Tractor Supply that had some was an hour away. Okay, no problem. Put everything else on hold, get in the car, make the trip. I got back with the goods and I fixed up a bottle for her, and she drank it down in a couple of minutes. She's a really strong lamb, and I think she will do fine. And the other thing I needed to find was the lamb milk replacer. Again, this formula needs to be made for lambs. The fat content of used milk is very high compared to cows or even goats. And fortunately, the Tractor Supply store that had the colostrum also had the lamb milk replacer. It's very expensive, but we got it anyway. Whew, I got it all done. I feel pretty good about this little girl's chances of survival. It was a flurry of activity. Again, you got to get that stuff in there within that 24-hour window. But that flurry of activity, pretty normal for homestead life in the spring. There is one more ewe still to give birth, praying all goes well for her. That's about all I have time for in this podcast. It's time to go bring up Cloud and make sure once again that Princess is being fed properly, and we need to give Cloud some extra calorie treats each day as she needs to supply milk for 2 calves. And I'll feed and water the baby quail and get another bottle of colostrum ready for the ewe lamb. She will get fed at least 3 times a day for a few days, and then it will drop to twice a day for at least 2 months on the bottle. And then she'll be able to eat grass. It's all in a day's work on the homestead. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hop over to Apple Podcasts or whatever podcasting service you use. Subscribe. Give me a 5-star rating and a review. It really helps a lot to get them to promote the show. And if you like this content and want to help out, the absolute best way you can do that is to share it on your social media with any family or friends who might be interested in this type of content. Let them know about the Peaceful Heart FarmCast. Thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. And until next time, may God fill your life with grace and peace.